Hi, welcome to the new video. Today we'll be playing some extra aggressive small aggro Zeus Bushwacker strategy. Okay, so this video will be very short because games are incredibly short with this deck. This deck just goes very aggressive in the first 3 turns and then you win or lose, but it's very fun to play. Okay, the main goal of this strategy is to dump your hand in the first 2 or 3 turns and then kill your opponent by turn 4 if possible. To help us with that, we have 8 of our guys that produce mana when they enter the battlefield. So basically, these 8 guys are free spells, and we play that free spells for 2 mana to gain some early board advantage and swarm the board with cheap creatures, which then hopefully win us the game when paired with Reckless Bushwacker or Atarka Command or just Gorklan Rampager. We have a lot of very aggressive 1-drops like Pelt Collector, which is probably our most aggressive 1-drop because on turn 2 it's often 3-3 and like Wild Nakatal, but on turn 3-4 can be 4-4. So it's often more aggressive than Nakatal, but while Nakatal 4-off also a very aggressive 1-drop, the biggest in the game. Also go 4 Goblin Guide, which attack immediately because they have haste. 4 Vexing Devils, just huge creatures for 4 mana, and the old synergy with the Pelt Collector. So you play Pelt Collector, you play Vexing Devil, they mostly get 4 damage to face and grow Pelt Collector for to 3-3, and also it's one of the few ways we have to grow our Pelt Collector to 4 power. Okay, so other than that, we are playing 4 Voldaren Epicures, which serve in a deck as a way to discard our Chancellor later in the second or third turn, and it's also one body that works well with Bushwacker and deals 1 damage when enters the battlefield, which can be relevant. The 2 Gore Clan Rampagers in the deck to just give our guys a trample plus 4/4, very aggressive card. Can be played for 4 mana, but that's very rare. Maybe sometimes against Living End you discard it and then comes into play, but this guy is rarely in play. And that's it, that's the deck, very simple. On sideboard some Graveyard Hate, Artifact Enchantment Hate, Cascade Hate, some counter spells and some removals. That's it. Just to finish the very interesting league, and we will watch the games from that league. It was very quick, and video will be very short and interesting because games are really blast to watch. So we reveal Chancellor turn 1 here, which means we get 1 extra mana, and that means we can just play Herbalist turn 1, Burning Tree Emissary, and play Bushwacker immediately on turn 1 and save our 1-drops for later turns. This is like pretty aggressive play. It's a turn 1 opponent is already on 9, but unfortunately they had Fury, a killer of our creatures, and that's basically it. We can't survive that. I wasn't able to play my creature because they had Ephemerate, so I just tried to attack with Guide, but they had another creature, and that's it. Pretty short game, and most of the games are. So, time for game 2. We had incredible hand, but unfortunately opponent had even better hand. Again, a reveal Chancellor, gain 1 mana on our upkeep, play Spell Collector, play Voldaren Epicure. Okay, so play the Vexing Daredevil, grow our Pearl Collector for 3, attack opponent for 4. Unfortunately, our opponent didn't have Fury this time, but I wanted to try to draw something, didn't, but and this time too, I should have probably just played the Herbalist, apply some more pressure, but I was in a pretty good situation. My opponent on one with 3 creatures on the field is pretty much a Fury or bust for them, and even after that I have many ways to kill them, like Epicure's, Tarka's Command and similar, so that was it. Game 3. Okay, game 3 and playing second this time, for the first time playing second, keeping a decent hand, uh, getting the Totsis bug, just I had a very decent turn 2 again. I let my opponent attack with Drago and let them deal damage. I don't care much about that. I'll play a lot of creatures next turn, so I play 2 Herbalists, Burning Tree Emissary, and then while in the Cattle, grow my Pet Collector to 3/3, attack, put them on 12. They had Fury, fortunately no Ephemerate this time, so they just went for Seasoned Pyro. I attacked with all, drew into Tarkus command, so they probably wanted to give Pyromancer Undying, but I had lethal the same turn, 11 damage, and that was it. Okay, that was game 1. Losing game 1 after having such a good hand felt bad, but fortunately I succeeded to. Okay, sorry, we'll watch this game in the end because this was the only loss. I usually leave the losses for the last to analyze them. We'll watch the wins first. So reveal 2 Chancellors. So having 3 mana on turn 1, pretty good. Succeeded to fetch, play my Herbalist, play my Nakatal, and with 1 red mana play Guide, attack immediately for 2. Revealed Blacksmith skill, so obviously it was a hammer. Still in a very good position, playing another Nakatal, attacking for 6. Pretty strong start. Didn't have. I just played my Epicure, deal 1 damage to face, get my blood token, discard 1 of the Chancellors, draw Goblin Guide, attack for 8, put them on low life. They decided to block and save their Stoneforge, but they were on 2 low life and they weren't able to survive this. Okay, so game 2 against Hammer, a bit harder on the draw, not having Chancellor. With Chancellor, this would be just incredible hand, and there would be absolutely no chance for them to win this. I decided to go for Goblin Guide. Unfortunately, gave them Urza Saga here, and they find the Hammer, attack for 1. So I had a pretty good hand turn 2. I was able to play everything. So just play Herbalist, play second Herbalist, 2 Emissaries, just drop my entire hand on the field turn 2, and still not enough to win against this Hammer, which is pretty incredible and says just how strong deck the Hammer is really. I just dropped everything on the field, put them on 12 life turn 2, and it still wasn't enough. It didn't even matter if I block. They had both Shadow Spear and Hammer, so there was nothing I could have done. If I had the green card in hand, I could have stayed in the game, but yeah, that was it. I lost 2 games for now with pretty strong, absolutely incredible hands, and it was pretty amazing. My opponent even had a chance to stay in the game against hands as powerful as that ones. I immediately attack with guide to game 3. Turn 1 gave them nexus to hand. Turn 2 draw into Pelt Collector, just play Pelt Collector and Vexing Devil. They take 4 damage into face. I attack with guide for another 2 damage to put them on 11 life turn 2, so pretty strong start again. Opponent didn't have hammer luckily, and I drew into Emissary, which was pretty good draw because I had 2 Bushwackers in hand, and I was able to attack with everyone. They petted 1 creature, which was good for me because that meant that I'm sure I'll have the Devil Bushwacker play next turn, and I went for Devil and the second Bushwacker, and I think that was it. Yeah, they killed 1 creature, but they couldn't survive that. They jumped with both. They had they almost got me because they missed 1 mana to play the aid, put Inkmat into creature and equip hammer on it, but luckily they didn't have a 4th land, so that was it. That was the hammer matchup. Let's see next game. So pretty quick games, leagues last really short to this. I had to mulligan here first time. No lands in the game. In hand 2, I removed the land from my hand, reveal Chancellor, get 1 mana on turn 1, just play 2 of my 1-drops here, and pass the turn. It was probably a mistake to leave to not hold land there, but anyway, it was living end matchup, and they played first, so chances of me winning this were pretty low because they were on a play and they had the turn 3 thing, so there's not much I could do. So that was it. That was the game. Okay, so game 2, after some sideboarding, I put Mana Titan. I put Chalice of the Void and Endurance, and I felt pretty good about this matchup. So I immediately went for Vexing Devil. It's pretty aggressive, and it's most likely they won't let it. It's most likely they won't let it die. So I was able to attack for 4, turn 2, and then I got Burning Tree Emissary, Reckless Bushwacker, which with Nakatal and Devil into play meant I had 14 damage, sorry. They had to fetch to put themselves on 1 life, and they only had another fetch, so they couldn't have 3rd mana, and that was it. Okay, so game 3, definitely trickier again, but I have a good sideboard for Living End. With Mana Tits, Chalice of the Void, Endurance on side. I have pretty much everything I need. Unfortunately, they went for a Grief turn 1, discarded my Manatite, so I just played. I should have played Nakatal here because yeah, after game 2 they just let Waxing Devil die. They didn't do the same mistake, but they didn't have a second land this early, and I was able to play Bushwacker turn 3, attack my opponent for lethal on turn 3, and that was it. Okay, so even if they had land, it wouldn't matter. That was the Living End matchup, and I think the last matchup were Merfolks. And then we'll come back to the game the only game I lost. It was very close. It could have easily been a win. So only play turn 1 here is Vexing Devil, which means they are just taking 4 damage to face, and I feel like I pretty much get to play it, so it was pretty mediocre hand, game 1 against Merfolk. So just Herbalist Emissary turn 2, nothing special here. Not being able to cast efficiently Atarka here definitely feels kind of bad, but I couldn't do much about that. So they just played a while on turn 3, and I had some bad draws, drawing to 5 lands, and this deck just played 18 lands, so it's not very common. I just played the Tarka for 6 damage, put them on 10 life, hold Gorkland Rampager into hand, but I just didn't draw into anything. Already had 2 lands in hand, and I think I drew another land, yeah, and that was it. No gas to finish this game. Expectedly they played the Trickster, not before combat, but after, probably just wanted to block with the 3G. I had Rampager here to deal some damage to face and survive the turn, but they had another Lord, and that was game 1. Okay, so I think this matchup is pretty good. I don't board anything against a lot of these matchups. Okay, so having Chancellor turn 1 means this hand is keepable. So I played Pelt Collector turn 1. Just deal 4 damage to their face, grow Pelt Collector to 3-3. Really aggressive, so they have a hard time dealing with 4-4 Pelt Collector on turn 2, and they're already on 8 life. So they make my swamp island, which is definitely a problem for my deck, but I drew into another land. I was in a pretty good position at this point. They did March, and I played Vexing Devil, and they conceded the game. That was it. And game 3, I had to mulligan the first hand, the revealed Chancellor. Again, having an extra mana on turn 1 can be pretty good against them. So I drew into another land, which was fine, so I was able to just play Emissary, Bushwacker on turn 1, attack for 5. That's already large pressure for against such a deck, so I was in a pretty good position. Making my island here really problematic for this deck. And this is very accidentally f6'd through this turn, so I was able to play my Valnekatal after in the second main phase after combat, but I really didn't expect them to block, and the block happened very fast, so I didn't succeed to just turn off all the yields, and I accidentally f6'd through the turn. I would be in a pretty much better situation if I just succeeded to play my Valnekata last turn, but luckily it didn't cost me the game. I was able to play Herbalist Nekato at this turn, save Atarka for next turn, possibly lethal. And as I said, they will be on 3 less life now, but it didn't affect the game, luckily, so that was it. They block with both of their creatures, and luckily I had the Tarkas here. 6 damage to head, kill both of their creatures, mine survives, and they conceded. That was it, so we will just check my only loss. this league. It was against white-blue Urza deck, and they played the first game one, and I had pretty good hand. Pelt collectors, guides, Nakatas, herbalists, burn tree emissary, just kind of a perfect hand for this deck. It doesn't get much better. Unfortunately, my opponent just had everything they needed. I just dumped the entire hand turn 2 and I lost the game, which seems like impossible against this deck at this moment, so it's really unfortunate that I lost the game. So just attacking them for 5, turn 2, them having nothing that bothers me very much. They just had one portable hole, and they had the second portable hole, and later they had more portable holes, so they just kind of drew a perfect for this matchup, and I kind of needed a Tarka command or something at this point, but they played Urza and Monitor, and I conceded the game. That was it. I couldn't do anything. Okay, so really unfortunate loss game one, but my opponent really drew exactly what they needed, and I couldn't do much here, so I just boarded my Force of Figures here, play guide in turn 1. Just to play Vexing Devil, they decided not to pay life, they pay life for the second one, and the first one stayed in play. They killed the second one, but luckily I drew into Emissary, Bushwacker, and played the land, had Force for the next turn, and it was still in a pretty good position, just put them on 7 life here. Drew into attacked again, drew into a green card to ditch for Force. They jumped here, I put them on 5, and just kill Saga and hole on upkeep, and that was it. So pretty easy. Game 2, and then the final game, game 3. I had mediocre hand, really mediocre hand, but I kept it because of the force of the vigor. And this is probably where I lost the game. I just decided to to go for it early, try to kill their affinity in case they had some tooth monitors, so they can't cast them early, and win the game that way. So and I should have just saved. I should have just saved the. I should have just saved the Force and the kill Nettlecyst and Urza Saga they played later, and this game would definitely be mine. So definitely a punt from my side. If I just played Force in this situation, this game would be over. So a hard punt for missing a trophy. Really felt bad, but yeah, I just got ahead of myself and played too recklessly. Missed that. Just did some bad decision with force of vigor, and that ended the game. That's it. That was the deck. Deck is super fun to play, really aggressive, and just having the really exciting play patterns at turn 1 and turn 2, just dropping most of your hand on the field, and just trying to raise your opponent before they do anything relevant. It's really fun and exciting to play, and the Chancellors just have felt amazing every time I had them. It was the best card in the deck, and when paired with Burning Tree Emissary, Hidden Herbalist, I think it's really strong. and I think deck is really I think this is a real deck to play, and it can be pretty devastating for some matchups that don't play Fury. You can also, as you saw, you can win Fury matchup because you're winning most games on turn 3, sometimes on turn 4, but mostly on turn 3 it's a pretty fast deck. They have to have Fury immediately and Ephemerate or Undying spell, and you can even, because you can win if they just Fury and kill 2 of your creatures, you can still win. You saw that against the Mardu Fury deck. Mardu Undying Ephemerate, and so it's pretty efficient and killing your opponent early. And it's the aggro version of some crazy burn. And it's definitely the hardest aggro deck you could possibly play in this format. And that's it. There is also an option to just put Mirror Superion in the deck, which is great with Burning Tree, Hidden Herbalist, and drop the Atarka and play Mori as your companion. So that's some alternative. Mori can be, I think, decent. 4-5 body in some games, but you don't really want companion for this kind of deck. It's like having Lurus in Burn. Yeah, so one time in 100 games you put it in and it ends the game, but it's not really not that often, so I don't think Komori would be much relevant for this kind of deck. Okay, hope you enjoyed the gameplay, and that's it.